And the smokestacks had to be touched up too. The so-called balloon stack was the hallmark of the wood-burning locomotive. And that balloon-like screen over the top was to keep embers from escaping and setting the countryside on fire. Topped off with these contraptions, our locomotives really began to get in character. They were almost ready to take the stage, except for one small detail yet to be attended to. In their day, no locomotive was considered ready for public appearance without a nameplate. And so these were provided. Dressed for their roles at last, the recreated General in Texas stood in ancient splendor, gleaming like museum pieces. With their brasswork polished and their wood boxes full and steam up, they were ready for the star performances of their lives. Well, we now had two of our main actors. Our next problem was to find a railroad to run them on. Our story required a single track with a dirt roadbed, old-fashioned telegraph poles carrying a single wire, and stations to match. In fact, it had to be a Civil War railroad. Oddly enough, we found it right here in the region where our story actually happened. So now I'd like to take you on location to the Blue Ridge Mountain country of northern Georgia. Here in the heart of the deep South lies some of the prettiest country you ever want to see. Winding through this rural setting, there runs a single-track railroad of a sort that's hard to find nowadays. This is the Tallulah Falls Railroad, or the TF line, also known in these parts as the total failure. People everywhere love to kid their own railroads, but I warn you, don't try it here if you come from anywhere but Georgia. These pictures were taken on our scouting trip, and the moment we saw this romantic country, we knew we'd found the place for our story. For one thing, there were old wooden trestles by the dozens, 41 of them in fact, and these suited our plans perfectly, for our story had to have trestles. One of the objectives of the Andrews Raiders was to burn the bridges behind them as they fled northward with their captive locomotive. Incidentally, we didn't actually burn any of these, but they did provide the proper background. On every side, there were echoes of another century. In this rustic setting, life goes on much as it did in Civil War days. And often, the old ways are still the best. Oxen are a practical answer to lots of problems, performing some jobs better than horses. But horses have their place too. Here, a well-trained logging horse works without reins. He obeys spoken commands, if you know how to talk to horses. It's sorghum country too. And after the stalks are cut, they're put into a horse-driven sorghum grinder. This squeezes out the juice. And later at the cooking shed, it's made into syrup by slow cooking over a wood fire. This is an old process that's been used since earliest plantation days. There's a peacefulness to this country that's hard to beat. This is where a stream is a branch. And along every branch, nature's critters are right at home. Scenes like this, in fact, were the favorite haunt of Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox in the Joel Chandler Harris stories. A good coon country, too. There goes the grandson of my old Davy Crockett hat now. If I were still playing that part, I'd grin him right up a tree for you. But since I'm James J. Andrews this time, I'll let him go about his business. It was in a peaceful setting such as this that the Andrews raid occurred. And so for the time being, the Tallulah Falls Railroad was to become the Western and Atlantic, while we reenacted the great chase of 1862. And here come our locomotives ready to renew the old rivalry. On location, you run into some funny problems, and we had one now. how to get our locomotives off their flat cars. We dug a trench and laid some track in it and ran the flat cars down this ramp until they matched ground level. Then we towed our rolling stock onto the roadbed, and we were ready to go. Well, almost ready. Nobody was sure yet whether our old wood burners could turn out the speed demanded by the story. And we also had to find out if this lightweight track could take such speed. And so a trial run was in order. But the test went well, and our old locomotives performed like the veterans they were. In fact, before our picture was finished, they clocked 1,000 miles like this, going at a boiler-bursting pace. During the test, the most fascinated spectator was Walt Disney himself. A great fancier of old trains, he made it a point to be on hand to check every factual detail. On location, production problems are endless. Yet Mr. Disney seemed to have time for everything, including on-the-spot interviews. And in return, this visiting drama critic found time to play a part in our motion picture. And to get into the spirit of things, Walt wore a Confederate hat all the time he was on location.